they want to do it that way, long as they ultimately build
to this ratio.
To the ratio, which means then they'll build some other neighborhoods with tons of single-family detached. But there's no timing that's involved in any of that. So they've set up a timing and a percentage for all of the neighborhood. And South River, they've made it a smaller percentage, so it won't fill up with townhomes in South River. So I think that's one place that, with the ratio that they've put in place, that you have a better proffer than what you had currently in effect today. The Durrett Road, and I speak to that on the next segment, and I already told you about the wells. I think we're coming ahead on the wells, but I think on Durrett Road, there's not a lot of specifics on that, and that's been built into this with some timing. When there are a certain number of units, they're going to do some things with Durrett Road that's just not listed in. It's just we're going to do Durrett Road, but really don't know when any of that's going to happen. So I think you're coming ahead on Durrett Road as well. So I think if you take what they're trying to do they gain something? Yes. They gain the ability to have townhomes in South River that's not there today. With that, we gain $700 per unit in South River in additional proffer because the proffers will all match. The design standards for everybody building in there will be the same. So Ladysmith design standards move over into South River. It's all one thing for all the builders to do. I think those things become positives. Would I like to have the park in my lifetime? Yes, but that hasn't been offered to us. So do you hold out for that, hoping for a better profit deal? Maybe so, but I don't think what they've proposed on the other ends of this spectrum are negatives. I think they really are positives if I was going to be doing it, and that's sort of my recommendation. I'm not happy about the park, but...
Could I speak to the attorney just for a second? This is regarding the building of the park. So really when you looked at the $500,000 or $490 for the park, basically you figured if you moved it back far enough, then it would kind of be not an expense right now that you could push back further and gain some of the usage of.
Mr. Underwood, we didn't push it back. It is at the same level that the current case puts it at. We were willing to move it earlier, as Mr. Akers had asked earlier, and asked Mr. Dittert if he would commit to change that 1,350 to 1,200, which would be an improvement over the existing case. But we did not move that out. That is what it is today. Okay. With this, we would be willing to, and we have power of attorney to change that to 1,200 instead of the 1,350. And we've written the proffer so that unless mutually agreed, if there's an agreement to move it earlier, finding the park, getting the commitment, getting it vetted, getting it designed, this proffer does not prevent that from happening sooner. Okay,
so you're willing to have that as a consideration?
Very, very willing to be engaged in that discussion, yes, sir.
Okay. And I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Other questions?
Yes, I do. Can I speak to one of the two of you? I guess Bob or... I have heard, and I guess I'm curious, I don't understand why everyone in the county was confused on the building of the park. I got to be honest with you, I've been pushing for park improvements in Western Caroline since, you can ask Mr. Schiebel over there, probably contacted him sometime in the spring about that, and I got a phone call sometime in the summer, maybe fall, from Mr. Fincham saying, hey, we may have a solution to the park problem. There was nothing ever from the county that said the solution is 30 years down the road. And I'll be honest, I feel like that's a bait and switch. I mean, we can say what we want. I mean, we can agree to disagree on that particular issue. That's fine. But to be excited about a park 30 years down the road, like Mr. Cully said, 500,000, you know, that's 30 years down the road. I mean, what is that going to be? I mean, what are you? I don't know. Are you going to get bleachers for that? I don't know. I mean, you know, I guess. The next question is, I heard at the last board meeting that somehow Durrett Road all of a sudden is going to be tarred and chipped. Is that correct?
Not in its entirety. From Camellia Drive to Library Boulevard.
Is that in the proffers?
It is not.
So why are we agreeing to do that if it's not in the proffers? I mean, I guess I'm confused on that part of it, where that came into, I guess I'm a little confused on where that came into play.
The reason that came into play, Mr. Black, is because the proffers address the permanent solution to Durrett Road. The tar and chip was a temporary measure because of the condition of that road and some requests of the residents. So that was a temporary measure that Newland was willing to do on top of the permanent solution for Durrett Road.
And what is the cost? What is the cost of this tar and chipping? Do you have an estimation? Or
We don't have that right now, but it's
just find that.
tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Is it possible, I think Mr. Fincham told me this in my email, if there's any change, and I'm asking Mr. Emerson, if there's any change in what we want, say if we wanted to approve the changes to South River, approve the changes to density, but we wanted to take the park out altogether, would that require a new public hearing, or?
Well, Mr. Thomas, you can't make changes. You can accept the proffers, or they can voluntarily change them, and if they're not material changes, then we wouldn't have to have another public hearing if they're...
That's a lawyer answer. I'm looking for a yes or no in that.
No, you
question-
can't change them.
Thank you. So that's what I was looking for. Thank you. So we would have to have another public hearing, any changes. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Other questions? How does the board wish to address this rezoning? Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the proffer change as noted.
Okay, so are you moving that we approve the rezoning? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Yes,
sir, Mr. Chairman. Then let me. What's that? It's ours.
Basically, we need to approve the rezoning as presented, or deny it, or continue it.
Let me ask the board a question. This is the third time that we've been here to discuss this issue. And my question to you is, and I think their question to you is, what do you want? Now, I know that you're saying, Mr. Thomas has indicated he wants to take the park out. Now, Mr. Thomas, are you saying if the park comes out that you're willing to vote for everything else? Even though I believe the park is going to be to advantage in the long run, it's going to be to advantage. You don't have to build a park until you get the $500,000. I understand what Mr. Black is saying, that it will not be, it may, if they, on the current build out, it's going to be 20-some years. But hopefully that, I'm sure Newland does not want and does not expect for this development to only build 25 homes a year or 26 homes a year. If they do, I'm sure that it's just not going to work for them. And so what is it that we're wanting them to address? We told them we wanted them to address the first time. They came back and they addressed them. We told them a second time, no, we want you to address something else. Now, they've tried to address those issues. Now, what is it that we want them to address? If we want them to address an issue, let's tell them right up front and say, if you address these issues, then we'll vote for it. Or if you can't address those issues, then they'll come back to us and say, hey, I want to take up the park issues. Don't worry about the parks. I think we need to give them some direction. They've tried to address the issues we've had, but we've not given, evidently, much direction as to what we want.
Mr. Akers, I think I can answer that. For me, I've said all along, I think Bob knows this, the whole vote, my whole vote hinges on the park. I think the park is needed, and I don't think 1,200 homes is, going from 1,300 to 1,200 homes is a huge, I don't believe that's really a drastic change. We're not even realistically in the time frame where that's,
7 years. I mean, it's 7 years that that
7
you're
years
looking at, 6 years, that difference between
It's 6 years, but then
$1,350.
you're still between
Well-
how many years out? I mean, 20 and 30 years, or 25 and 35 years? None of us will be on the board by that point, and $500,000, and we'll be, yeah. I mean, that's just not realistic. If it's going to be a centerpiece of, I guess for me, the thing is this, and I've told Bob this earlier, if you have a park in the Ladysmith Village area, wherever the sites that were identified, you guys did that, and you bring people from outside, if Ladysmith Village is the centerpiece of Caroline, we bring people from outside and say there's a soccer match or a baseball game going on in this park, and you say people come from the outside and play it and say, hey, look at this community, okay? Then you might want to move in there. So it would benefit you guys, it would benefit us at the same time because it's open to everyone, okay, in the community. So that's why I was thinking the park would be a centerpiece, and yes, it would not be just strictly Newland, but it would be something that you guys could show off to everyone, hey, people need to move into Ladysmith Village. And that's, the park for me is the big thing. And I think you guys know it always has been the thing. Not 20 years down the road. So that's my answer, Mr. Akers.
Okay. Let me kind of, and Mr. Black, I can appreciate your passion for this park. But my only comment is that I can almost assure you that nobody's going to move to Ladysmith Village because of the park. It's not an anchor. Wait a minute, let me just finish. Just looking at it, and then you can have your say. Looking at it just from a business standpoint, I think it's a value add to the community. And I agree with you, it's a value add. But I think there are a lot more things that can benefit the county that will help grow this community. And I do agree that the park is needed. I understand how far out you're concerned about. And I think, as the attorney said, maybe we can have a discussion about that. But I don't see a reason to kill a project that could benefit our community. I just don't see it. We have to be able to work collaboratively with our business entities. And I think this is an opportunity for us to come back to the table and have a discussion. I don't think we get all we want up front, but I think there's, as Mr. Cully stated, we get some of the things that we want. I'm not totally happy the way it is, but I would certainly not want them to walk away from the table and feel like we were a group who would not work with them to make this project work.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Mr. Hidhart a question?
Sure.
Bob, you've heard the discussion, and I think you see where things are headed. Is this an issue where we need to go ahead and vote on it right now and say, hey, up or down it? And I think it's going to be down. I can count, and I can see the direction. Or is there room for discussion, further discussion with Newland and with y'all as to what possibly can happen? Or is it a point where you have reached your maximum that you're willing to give, and it's time now to say, we're through? We want you to either vote it up or down based on what the information is you have in hand. I don't want to drag you along because I think we become looking like we are anti-friendly. We're not friendly business, and I don't want that to happen to Caroline County. It hasn't happened for many years, and I hate to see it start happening now. We've always been considered as a business-friendly community. And so I don't want to see us now look like we aren't. So I don't want to keep dragging you back in here, and then we changing the ground rules every time you come back in here as to what we want and what we don't want. You tell me.
5 years on the park. 5 years, rather.
Would you like to address that?
5 years on the park.
The point is, are you? We're not asking to change the proffers, okay?
We're not. We're not.
Are you willing on putting a year rather than a number of homes, putting a year as to 5 years, 7 years? The park will be, and the $500,000 will be available. If you are, then I think that's where we can go from that point on, and we can talk, and hopefully we've got a consensus.
I'll answer your question
Yes.
in two parts.
Yes, please.
I think that we would appreciate a vote this evening, but that does not mean that we will not consider other options for developing the park site. I am not at liberty this evening to negotiate anything other than what we have agreed to, the
Right.
change to the 1,200.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that we couldn't visit something else in the near future.
I do have a question for the county attorney. If the vote is no and this case is turned down this evening, what is the wait period for reapplying?
I think it's a year,
Yeah.
but I
A
don't
year.
recall
So we would not be
precisely.
able to bring the
So
case
I-
back for a year if this
But if we
is-
continue the
I think
case,
Mr.
we can
Akers,
continue
I
it.
think Mr. Akers is asking not for a negotiation
Right.
tonight or a discussion tonight, but simply to continue
can
and not take
continue.
a vote tonight, so that you could continue discussions and not run into the problem that you would have if it is turned down, then you can't bring it back for another year.
Yeah, that's my point, is the fact that if you think if you're saying to me that there's room for discussion and further agreements, then let's continue this issue until another meeting. But if you're saying to me that you're at your limits and that you're not willing to do any more than what you've already committed to, then I think we need to up it and down it and let it go.
If I may further qualify my answer,
Yes.
I think we're always and remain willing to do what is best, what we think is best for everybody involved. I think I would also add that so long, if the board decided to defer its vote, that we limit perhaps the discussions to the park issue. If that is
Is that agreement with the board?
what's holding it up, we can.
To limit the discussion from this point on to the park?
That's
I'm sorry?
That's not what I would like. I would like more discussion. I would like some help on the library. I would like some help on the why. I would like something else. And I don't want to limit my discussion to just the park. I think these were bad proffers when we got them, and now here we are with a chance to fix them. Let's fix them. No, I want you to build houses, okay? Let's get that straight, because if you build houses, I don't really care how much money you make. It's America. We're all capitalists. That's fine. When you build houses, that brings revenue into the county. But
Strictly on the park.
as I said before, I feel shortchanged already, and a great number of my constituents sitting out there have expressed how they feel about it. We built you a school, we built you a library, we built you a Y. Can you do something for us? That's all I'm saying. I got a payment for the library due next year. I got a
Okay,
payment for the Y. And all
Okay,
this.
could I interrupt
No,
you?
he asked what.
Well, I know, but let's, just let me say this. As a board, we can vote to defer this. We don't have to, we can vote to, how we decide to handle this is a board decision.
He said,
We can,
limit it to the library.
okay,
and
but
asked me,
what
and
I'm
I
saying,
said no.
I know, what I'm saying is, we as a board I can entertain a motion to defer this,
To only talk about the library?
but
Or
that
what?
does not have to be a part of the motion. If we vote to defer action on this rezoning, we can do that and then we are open to do whatever it is that we need to do.
Why don't you just
We don't-
schedule another public hearing to make sure we covered ourselves in
Well,
case we change the property?
We can defer action on this rezoning now.
Okay, if they come back with a different offer on the park, is that going to generate a requirement for another public hearing?
Possibly, quite probably.
Well, I mean,
Didn't I just
so what do we say?
You'd have to see what the proposal is,
Let's
but
just
probably,
say they
yes.
come back and say and I know, that, they'll give us $500,000 in the parkland next week, or the 1st of May.
Then I'd suggest another public hearing.
Did I say
All
that 10
right,
minutes
so
ago?
let's go ahead and defer it, but we probably need to schedule a public hearing, another public hearing. Right. First meeting in April.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we defer action on this rezoning request to April the 14th? 14th, April the 14th.
Does your motion also include scheduling a public hearing just in case?
Yeah, it is. I've told them to schedule a public hearing. That's the reason we put it until the 14th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's moved and properly second that we would defer action on this public hearing until April 14th, at which time we will schedule another public hearing. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries unanimously. That takes us to agenda item number 8, proposed vacation of easements for Ladysmith Village.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next item on the agenda is also a request from Newland Communities, Ladysmith Village, to vacate a number of easements in various sections of the project. You basically have 3 different sets of requested vacations. One is in proximity to lots 219 through 231, which would allow a re-subdivision of those lots from 13 to 14 lots. Because that's already been approved and platted, and they're re-subdividing, the Planning Commission has approved the re-subdivision, but that's contingent upon the board agreeing to the vacation of the various easements. Covers parking, sidewalks, etc., that would be re-established with the approval of the record plat. So you're basically taking the existing easements and they would be replatted with the recordation of the subsequent plat. Part of this is a change. The concept when it was platted was that these would be live-work units. The applicant is requesting to replace those live-work units with townhouses. So, for example, the areas that were identified as parking related to the original live-work units would not be necessary for the townhouse units because the parking would be incorporated on site instead of as a public parking area. The other easements related to stormwater and certain utility easements which are not currently utilized, as well as a ingress-egress easement between lots 208 and 209, which are 2 existing platted lots. Those lots are to be consolidated into one single-family detached lot. So the ingress-egress easement is not necessary. It would still be reserved for pedestrian access and other uses. Just would not have cars driving back and forth between or through that easement.
Okay, Mr. Fincham, I guess my question is, the rezoning that we just got through discussing, does that have any impact on what we're doing now with the vacation of these easements?
No, sir. Nor does this vacation have any impact on the rezoning.
Okay. Okay. Questions from the board? Mr. Thomas?
They're just utility, it says storm drainage and utility easements?
As well as some ingress and egress easements and some vehicular easements. Those easements are not necessary.
Okay, so we have capability to provide utilities in there without these easements, is basically what you're saying?
Yes, sir. And we checked with Mr. Schiebel to make sure that there was no vacation of something where there was a utility line, and that is not the case.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Fincham, I'm looking at diagram 1A and I guess 1B.
Yes, sir.
So I take it that 1B is the broader look at the whole abandonment? You labeled them.
Yeah, let me just make sure I got my lot count correct here, Mr. Seeley. Yes, sir, that is correct. 1B is showing the easements to be vacated. Yes, sir.
So everything in green is being abated?
Yes, sir. An area, the large green area in back was to be parking for the live-work units as they were proposed.
So you're saying that parking will now go in the 1,596-foot square lot for that lot?
Yes, sir. Parking would be incorporated into the rear of the lots.
Into the rear of the lot?
Right.
So,
The large green area
right,
was actually to the rear and off of the alley. That area will now be incorporated into lots, and the parking will be on the lot instead of in this large common parking area.
so what you're telling me is that green space, and I just want to make sure I'm correct, so everything from parcel alley D would be the road frontage. And then for example, lot 219 would come all the way through to the common area, to the actual alley parcel?
Yes. Each of those lots currently actually has frontage on Library Boulevard,
Right,
okay?
I see that.
That large green area, and green might have been a wrong color because it's not green space. It was going to be paved parking area. That paved parking area will now be incorporated into the lots individually.
Okay, so you would have redrawn every lot, would have come back, that whole green area all the way down, every one of them?
That's what this subdivision, which is shown
In
on
1A?
1A, replaces this one. So you can...
Okay, so 1A is,
1A is the preliminary plat that has been approved by the Planning Commission for the re-subdivision.
okay, because then I see the lot sizes are bigger.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm looking for.
I understand. We're dealing with multiple sheets. All right.
And then, so we're doing the same thing with 2A and 2B?
2A and 2B,
Same thing?
which is the pink.
Right,
We're keeping an easement for like pedestrian access. We are getting rid of the common driveway access for those. Those parcels will be consolidated into one building lot.
so 208 and 209 become one lot?
One single-family detached lot.
Okay. And then 3A and 3B do what?
3A and 3B, you can see the yellow easements, the easements in yellow. Hopefully I got you a color copy.
It's yellow.
Okay. Those are utility easements which do not have any utilities located within the easement and are not necessary.
Okay, what about the green
The
portion?
green is an easement for a stormwater management facility that actually originally encroached on a property and is not necessary for that stormwater facility. So what we're trying to do is benefit the property owner by removing that utility easement on his private property.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? If not, How does the board wish to address this issue?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve the proposed vacation easements for Ladysmith Village as requested.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we eliminate the easements as requested for Ladysmith Village. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay. That takes us to,
We're done.
that's it.
That's it.
Move for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, closing
I'm sorry.
board comments.
Yeah, closing board comments. Thank you, Mr. Black. Mr. Black, do you have comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't know where we are on this. I think it's a kind of like a repeating comment. It took us how long to get the disc from the last meeting? Oh. So it took us about 3 weeks to get the disc, and then that disc has to be sent off to Comcast for the broadcast, correct? Where do we have a contract with? Do we have a? I mean, what is the deal with the current video? Do we have an ongoing contract, or is that something that can be looked at? I mean, 3 weeks to get a disc for shouldn't take 3 weeks. Is that something we can look at?
Mr. Black, I don't believe we have a current contract with the current vendor, so.
Is that something maybe we can look at as far as, I mean, if we're going to be sending it off, I mean, for people, because people keep on saying, hey, where is it? And I thought it was the problem on the Comcast end, and apparently it was not. Is that correct?
This time, certainly, the problem was, at least part of the problem was on getting the disc in a timely manner. I think we can look at a range of options, possibly including doing it ourselves. I'm not saying that's necessarily viable, but I think we should look at that.
Can we look into that? All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, did you have closing board comments?
I just wanted to ask Mr. Cully when the web demo was scheduled for the rest of the county.
It hasn't been yet, but now that the ranking's approved, we will get right on that.
I thought we said when we did the last demo that we were going to schedule a demo after the board meeting, because we knew we were going to rank them at the board meeting. One day next week will be fine, Mr. Cully. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Underwood, do you have closing board comments?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers, do you have closing board comments?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I would just like to...
Mr. Chairman, I do have a comment.
Yes, sir.
I have learned that today is Mr. Underwood's birthday. He is 70 years old today. No, I'm sorry, he was 50 years old, somewhere thereabouts.
50, 70.
He's somewhere between 50 and 70, I'm not sure. But certainly would wish him a happy birthday, and trust he has many more.
Officially, we wish you a happy birthday, Mr. Underwood, and many more. I want to have one closing comment. I have a meeting scheduled for the 26th of March at the Upper Caroline Volunteer Fire Department, and on the 31st at Port Royal. So we will get something out so that people will be aware of that. I will now entertain a move for adjournment.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, move that we adjourn. All in favor, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.